There's something strange about love that no one really teaches you. You grow up believing it's about beauty, about perfect faces, perfect bodies, perfect smiles. You think attraction is loud, obvious, and easy to understand. But then life happens, and you realize the people who stay, the ones who truly fall, are not always drawn by beauty. They are drawn by something deeper, something invisible, something they can't explain, but can never forget. This is the story of Ion. Ion was the kind of man people admired from a distance. Confident, successful, calm. He had everything most people spend their lives chasing. And because of that, he had options. Beautiful women came into his life easily. Conversations were effortless. Attention was constant. Compliments followed him everywhere. But something always felt incomplete. It wasn't that these women weren't kind. Some were. It wasn't that they weren't interesting. Some truly were. But every connection felt temporary, like a conversation that looked meaningful but never reached the heart. Ion didn't understand it at first. He thought maybe he was a problem. Maybe he was too distracted, too focused on work, too emotionally unavailable. But deep inside, there was a quiet truth he couldn't ignore. He was waiting for something he had never experienced before. And then, one ordinary evening, everything changed. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No music, no sudden realization, no cinematic entrance. Just a small bookstore, a rainy evening, and a woman sitting quietly in the corner. Her name was Sarah. If you asked someone to describe her, they might not use the word stunning. She didn't demand attention. She didn't try to stand out. But there was something about her presence. Something calm. Something grounded. Ion noticed it immediately. Even if he couldn't explain why, he didn't approach her right away. In fact, he didn't approach her at all that day. But he kept noticing her. The way she read slowly, as if she wasn't just reading words, but understanding them. The way she smiled at small things, like she had her own world inside her. The way she didn't look around to see who was watching her. She wasn't performing. She was simply being. Days passed, and Ion found himself returning to that bookstore more often than usual. Not because he needed books, but because he was curious. Curious about something he didn't understand. Eventually, they spoke. It started with something simple. A book recommendation. No flirting. No clever lines. No attempt to impress. Just a genuine conversation. And that's when Ion felt it for the first time. That feeling he had been waiting for, a sense of ease. With Sarah, he didn't feel the need to prove anything. He didn't feel the pressure to be impressive, successful, or perfect. He could just exist. And strangely, that made him want to be better. Not to impress her, but because her presence made him aware of who he truly was. This is where most people misunderstand attraction. They think it's about what you show. But the deepest attraction is about what someone feels when they're around you. Sarah had something rare, emotional presence. She listened not to reply, but to understand. She spoke not to impress, but to express. And most importantly, she was comfortable with herself. She didn't chase validation. She didn't try to fit into expectations. She didn't change herself to be liked. And that is the one thing men can't resist. Not beauty, not perfection, but authenticity. Weeks turned into months. Ion started noticing changes within himself. He was more patient, more thoughtful, more aware of his own emotions. And it wasn't because Sarah was trying to change him. It was because she created a space where he could see himself clearly. One evening, they were sitting in a quiet cafe. No distractions, no phones, just conversation. Ion asked her something he had never asked anyone before. Why do you think people struggle so much with love? Sarah paused for a moment, not because she didn't know the answer, but because she cared about saying it truthfully. Then she said something that stayed with him forever. Because most people are trying to be loved without being real. That sentence changed everything. Ion realized something painful. In all his past relationships, he had been surrounded by people trying to be perfect, and maybe he had been doing the same. But perfection creates distance, because it's not real, and the human heart doesn't connect with perfection. It connects with truth, with flaws, with vulnerability. Sarah wasn't perfect. She had insecurities. She had moments of doubt. She had fears she didn't always talk about. But she didn't hide them behind a mask. She accepted them. And that acceptance made her real. And that realness made her unforgettable. This is the psychology most people ignore. Men are not just attracted to what they see. They are deeply affected by how a woman makes them feel about themselves. With Sarah, Ayan felt understood. He felt safe. He felt like he didn't have to fight for attention or prove his worth. And that feeling is rare, because in a world full of noise, being truly seen is powerful. One night, Ayan realized something that scared him. He was falling in love. Not the kind of love that is loud and overwhelming, but the kind that is quiet and certain, the kind that grows slowly but deeply. And the reason it scared him was simple. This time it felt real. He wasn't chasing her. He wasn't trying to win her. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was simply drawn to her, effortlessly, naturally, completely. And that's when he understood the truth behind attraction. It's not about creating desire. It's about revealing truth. Sarah didn't try to make Ayan fall for her. She didn't play games. She didn't create mystery. She didn't manipulate emotions. She was simply herself. And that was enough, because authenticity is magnetic. It doesn't need effort. It doesn't need strategy. It just needs honesty. As time passed, their bond grew stronger, not because everything was perfect, but because everything was real. They had disagreements. They had misunderstandings. They had moments where things felt uncertain. But instead of running away, they stayed. They communicated. They listened. They tried to understand each other. And that's something many relationships lack. The willingness to stay and understand. One day, Ayan asked her something that had been on his mind for a long time. Do you ever feel like you're not enough? Sarah smiled softly, not because the question was simple, but because it was honest. Sometimes, she said, and what do you do when you feel that way? Ayan asked. She looked at him and said, I remind myself that I don't have to be perfect to be worthy. That was it. No complicated explanation. No deep philosophy. Just a simple truth. And yet, it held so much power. Because most people spend their lives trying to become enough, when in reality, they already are. This is the one thing men can't resist. A woman who knows her worth, without needing to prove it. A woman who is not chasing validation. A woman who is not afraid to be herself. A woman who is real. Because that kind of woman doesn't just attract attention. She creates connection. And connection is what every human heart is searching for. One evening, as they walked in a quiet sky, Ayan finally said what he'd been feeling for months. I think I've been searching for something my whole life. Sarah looked at him, waiting, and I think I found it in you. There was no dramatic reaction, no overwhelming emotion, just a quiet understanding, because she already knew, not because he said it, but because she felt it. And that's the difference between attraction and connection. Attraction is seen. Connection is felt. Ayan realized something in that moment. Love is not about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone real. Someone who sees you. Someone who understands you. Someone who doesn't make you feel like you have to become someone else to be loved. And that's rare, because most people are still trying to be what they think others want, instead of being who they truly are. Months later, Ayan found himself back in that same bookstore, the place where everything began. But this time, he wasn't alone. Sarah was with him, sitting in the same corner, reading quietly, smiling at the same small things. And Ayan realized something beautiful. Nothing about her had changed. She was still the same, still calm, still real, still unapologetically herself. And that's exactly why he fell in love with her. Not because she tried to be someone else, but because she never did. This is the truth most people don't understand. The one thing men can't resist is not beauty. It's not perfection. It's not mystery. It's not even charm. It's authenticity. Because in a world where everyone is trying to be something, the person who is simply real stands out the most. And that's the kind of connection that doesn't fade. That doesn't break easily. That doesn't depend on looks, time, or circumstances. It stays, because it was never built on illusion. It was built on truth. So if you're wondering what makes someone truly irresistible, it's not what you think. It's not about changing yourself. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about being real. Because the right person is not looking for perfection. They are looking for truth. And when they find it, they won't be able to resist it. Not because they have to, but because they feel it. And feelings like that are impossible to ignore.